Hi everyone, great to be here today. So as Stuart said, Kable has been analysing the public sector ICT market for a really long time, since 1990. And as analysts, we love data, that's what we do. And what I think is fantastic about the public sector is that there is so much data for us to look at. It is brilliant as an analyst. It's a very transparent sector. And so one of the things that is available to us, data geeks, is this wonderful data set, G-Cloud sales data, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, published every month. So brilliant. So I'm going to spend the next 10-15 minutes looking at some insights from this data set. What can we learn about opportunities in G-Cloud for IT suppliers? So one thing, one kind of criticism which sometimes I think is made of G-Cloud is that it's not really about cloud, is it? How much is it to do with cloud? So when I think of cloud, I think of the kind of pure play services we typically associate software as a service, platform infrastructure as a service, technologies which are delivered over the public cloud, sold by the slice. But as we can see, when you look at G-Cloud sales in terms of the four lots, actually most of the spend is going through lot 4, which is specialist cloud services, not the other 3 lots, which really focus on these more kind of pure play cloud technologies. So, well over 3/4 specialist cloud services. So at Kable, we've dug into the data in even more detail and tried to kind of quantify what is all this spend actually going on? What kind of things are suppliers doing? And the diversity is fantastic. Sorry, can you all see this? If I'd realised that this screen I would have put it the other way up. But we can see here that the activity is really kind of biased towards people-oriented services. So there's a lot of consultancy, a lot of development work. There's even staff spending, a significant proportion of staff spending in there. There is also hosting. There's lots of IaaS. There's lots of software as a service. But actually, G-Cloud is a much more diverse beast than we often realise. So, is this a bad thing? Well, it depends what you think G-Cloud is for. G-Cloud, as we all know, was originally established in order to speed the adoption of cloud services within government to get the government moving more quickly, modernising its infrastructure. So does this mean that G-Cloud has failed? I say no, absolutely not. I think G-Cloud has been terrifically successful, and I'll show you why. Now look at the way that the spend through G-Cloud has grown. Right, just from 2.5 years ago, it's absolutely rocketed up to a run rate of about 26 million a month is going through G-Cloud, which is really impressive for a framework of this kind, because that's what G-Cloud is. We had the question earlier comparing G-Cloud to other frameworks, right? Other CCS frameworks. G-Cloud compares really, really favourably, and for a reason behind that, it's worth just looking for a clue in this data which might tell us what's going on here. Can you see these 2 spikes in the monthly? See those 2 spikes? Now, anyone hazard a guess at what month of the year that spike is coming in? March. Why is that? What happens in March? End of the financial year. Now, go back to the last slide. Now look at these services that are being sold through G-Cloud. Do we normally see those year-end spikes in these kind of services? We don't normally. So something really interesting is happening here, because G-Cloud is a commodity vehicle, right? It's being used to sell commodity services, and we're seeing exactly the same spike in year-end sales as buyers rush to flush their budgets to spend any remaining budget by the year end. Now, whatever the civil servant accountants think of that, maybe they're not so keen on that. This shows that G-Cloud is being really successful in actually managing to get government to buy IT services as a commodity, which means quickly and cheaply, okay, rather than necessarily being sold through big IT outsourcing contracts bundled up via large vendors. So this shows that actually G-Cloud has really managed to change something in government, which I think is really impressive. So let's look at a comparison. How's it done to some other frameworks? I'm slightly embarrassed to show this data while Sarah's in the room because I think my data's a bit out of date. So a bit far too low at these numbers, aren't they, Sarah?
This old world, we're now tech products.
Exactly, that's right. Okay. They're last century. Exactly. Okay, so let's compare G-Cloud to a couple of really dreadful old world dinosaur vehicles. But, you know, actually, so these I'm showing you here, these are some of the biggest public sector frameworks out there. So commodity IT hardware and software up this end, absolute mammoth framework. By our reckoning, it was doing well over 400 million a year equivalent. We had Sprint 2 down there, a bit of a controversial framework, used quite a lot by police though. That was doing well over 165 million a year. And look at G-Cloud, just in a couple of, 2.5 years, it's rocketed up to doing, on its current run rate, nearly 320 million a year. So it's actually been very, very successful. Not sure if you can see a tiny little framework tucked over down that end. CCS's IT managed services, one of the old ones, disappearing. Okay, so we're not going to see that again. Tech services, there's the way forward, exactly. But you see, that only did 17.5 million a year. So, that's a small framework, and that was meant to aggregate government spending on IT services. So look how well G-Cloud has done. So this is good news.
So actually, we've got tech services and we've got education, we've got two different ones actually.
So there's several, yeah. Okay. So what's driving the spend? Well, fact number one, really important to appreciate just how important individual buyers are in driving G-Cloud spend. So that chart over there shows how the spend that's gone through G-Cloud is broken up by buyer. Now look at the Home Office. The Home Office itself is responsible for driving well over a quarter of all spending through G-Cloud, which is incredible. Anyone know why that is? No? Anyone think of the name? That's okay. So Denise McDonough, right? Ex-G-Cloud Director, CIO at Home Office, really, really big G-Cloud champion. And we can see that the Cabinet Office is a big user. That's very encouraging, isn't it? The rest, this is the top 10 spenders on G-Cloud are responsible for over half of all spending. Okay, so that's how strongly G-Cloud is currently oriented towards a few big buyers, and actually the rest are spending under half. But actually, so some of the smaller organisations are also spending significant chunks of their budget through G-Cloud. We can see, for example, Bristol City Council here, and also the London Borough of Hounslow are spending proportionately quite large chunks, and the Met, for example, TfL. So individual buyers and individual people within those buying organisations have a big impact. So that's important to remember. So going forward then, where's the opportunity? Well, let's skip back a little bit and just look at the spend data again, because we can see here, towards the end, we can see that the spend has kind of plateaued for the last few months. Okay, so it's been fairly steady at around kind of 26 million a month. So what's happening there? Well, I don't know. I'm an analyst, but I'll be the first to admit I can't tell the future. It might well be that as G-Cloud is so geared towards a small number of individual buyers, it might just well be that we've kind of picked up the low-hanging fruit so far, and in order to get the next tranche of growth going, it's really, really important to open up G-Cloud now and bring all the rest on and get them making their contribution. So where could the future growth come? Well, no surprise that local government is the big one here. And we can see that if you take the public sector as a whole, in terms of IT spending, central government defence and criminal justice makes up 39% of spending, but G-Cloud is 82%. So that shows us just how skewed G-Cloud is currently to those central government. Local government could be doing a lot more. 26% of overall spend in public sector is down to local government, just 6% in G-Cloud. So that's great. That means there's a big growth opportunity. And also we can see that education, police and to some extent health as well could do a lot more. As well as, there's still some growth in central government as well. We know, for example, that the DWP probably could spend quite a bit more proportional to their size. So this is good news. So which suppliers are winning? Well, G-Cloud is supposed to be a SME show. And some SMEs have done fantastically well via G-Cloud. So we can see players like BJSS, for example, really strong in the health sector, Methods Consulting, doing for them, really good business via G-Cloud, 15 million plus, 12 million plus. But there are also some familiar names in here. You can see number 3, IBM, that well-known SME. PA Consulting, also very small. In this list here, we've also got Capgemini, Detica. You don't have to look too far down the list also to see Kinetic, even Fujitsu, I believe, is on there. So it's not just a SME shop. There's lots of familiar faces too. But that in itself is interesting, right? That tells us that that these big players actually feel that they need to be on G-Cloud. That's actually a compliment. That's a really good sign. So what are some key takeaways then for suppliers? Well, Kable's research indicates that customers really like G-Cloud. We hear good things about it. They find it very easy to buy from. The team at GDS and CCS have done really good things in making it very accessible. The only complaints we hear is that they'd like to be able to put out longer contracts through G-Cloud, so the two-year contract thing. We hear complaints about that as well. But really important to remember, G-Cloud is a procurement vehicle. It is not a sales and marketing channel. It's probably the case that quite a lot of suppliers heard the messages about G-Cloud was going to be SME friendly, it was going to open up the government market, and kind of rushed onto G-Cloud because they thought that they were going to win easy business. What these numbers show us here, that actually just a fraction of the suppliers on the G-Cloud ever win any business at all. Can you see that down there? That's just 420, we reckon. And some of those sales have been very small. On the last slide, we saw some of the high numbers, 12, 15 million. Well, at the bottom end, it is pretty low. The average sale through G-Cloud is under 800,000. Okay. So G-Cloud is a procurement vehicle, not a sales and marketing channel. And what this means is that suppliers need to start with the customer, put your customer first, and put G-Cloud second. Okay. So engage with the customers, find out what they want to buy, what you can offer them, and then go and design a G-Cloud offering that's going to make it really, really easy for your customers to buy what you're offering them. That's pretty much it. Okay, so that's it from me. I feel we've just scratched the surface. We've got tons more data and insights back at Kable, so do grab me if you'd like to talk more about any of this. And now I'm going to hand over to Naureen.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Naureen Khan. I'm an Associate Director at Tech UK. How many of you know about Tech UK or what Tech UK is? Okay. That's probably most of our members, actually. So we're the trade association for the UK tech industry. We have around 850 members. So they range from FTSE 100 companies to new innovative startups. Most of our members are SMEs. So we have 500 SMEs in that membership of 850 members. So Jessica gave us a really interesting insight into the G-Cloud data. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the implications of that and where the tech industry see sort of G-Cloud going and the future of G-Cloud. So G-Cloud has absolutely been a phenomenal success. G-Cloud has certainly disrupted the status quo within the marketplace, but I think you have to put G-Cloud in the context of wider public services transformation. So for G-Cloud to continue to grow and continue to have an impact, it has to be part of the whole package of public service transformation, and part of that is making this concept of digital government that we often hear about, making that a reality. So So from the industry point of view, better technology can deliver better public services. But we as a country, this government and the next government, have a real challenge of redesigning and rethinking the way we deliver the public services. And that's not just about G-Cloud, it's about the whole picture around digital government. Adopting cloud computing is a key part of that. And I think G-Cloud is a really good example of the potential of government and of making digital government a reality. So if you think about the G-Cloud approach, G-Cloud has offered a route to market for small businesses. It's simplified procurement. Yes, there continue to be challenges, but what you see is the CCS and GDS working closely with the market and continuously taking that feedback from the market and improving with each iteration, and that's an agile approach. And what Jessica's figures show is that approach, that partnership and that engagement has meant that you've seen real scale and pace. And to continue that scale and pace, we need to see that engagement continue across the public sector. Is the appetite there for G-Cloud? Absolutely. So Tony, myself and Sarah's team held a whole series of regional events across the UK. So we were in Manchester, we were in Birmingham, we were in Newcastle and we were in London. And most of those events were sold out really quickly. So the appetite's really there from both buyers and suppliers. It was fantastic to see 100 people in the room we actually, for one of the London sessions, we even had a delegation from the Ministry of Defence. To local government, to police, and so it was fantastic to see the diversity there. So far so good. The appetite's there. And what I'd really like to see, I'm going to finish off there, is rather than another conference on has G-Cloud been a success or not, it's about, well, how can we continue to build on the success and make sure that G-Cloud is adopted and used across the public sector.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Naureen. Thank you, Jessica. Jessica, the point you were making there about IBM and its SME status did make me laugh, because I did actually want to spend a very unfortunate half hour with the man from IBM who insisted that IBM actually is an SME, but how that one worked out, I don't know. The theory, can I ask you both? The theory, or one of the theories which is put forward a lot, both by Francis Moore, by Liam Maxwell, by a lot of the people in the Cabinet Office, is that a lot of the old-style, big-ticket outsourcing type deals are winding down over the next 12 to 18 months, and that will suddenly see a big uptake of G-Cloud. When we look at something like HMRC and the renegotiation of Aspire, it's not going to be quite that simple, is it? But do you think, does that theory stand up?
I think you've got to be careful to compare like with like, and Aspire is not like anything that you can buy via the G-Cloud, and that is good. I think I would rather that my taxes were handled by, a very large, competent department with very significant back-end transactional systems. Okay, so I don't think we should get too overexcited. Certainly, IT outsourcing is changing in government, and that's really interesting too. We are seeing a lot of the large contracts of the past being divided up into smaller towers. On the whole, slightly shorter contract lengths. Not that, certainly not 2 years, but maybe not kind of 15 years as in the past. And I think generally the new model of IT in the government sector, if it hasn't created overnight changes, it's certainly sent out a very, very strong message to the large players that they need to do more to help take cost out. And if that's the only impact that it has, then that's a positive one.
Actually, I'm very excited about kind of Aspire, partly because of the work we're doing with HMRC. So the team there are fantastic, and I think there's a real will there to use this as an opportunity, and if you like, a test for the Cabinet Office's strategy. And what I'm really delighted about is I've been working very closely with the HMRC over the past year, and sort of now they're ready to come to market and talk to the market, and they're doing it. So in January, Mark Durnley, Steve Walters have come in to talk to our members, and really also very keen to engage with SMEs as well to present their technology blueprint. And I think that's fantastic. They're not running away from it. They're coming to the market really early on and saying, these are our plans. and want to hear from you. So for me, that is part of that new approach, being very open, opening up the market. So the more departments are out there talking about the opportunities that are coming up, willing to work with the market and taking the feedback, that's how you open up the market, and then the rest is competition.
One word which I think thankfully hasn't been used at all this morning so far is oligopoly, which has been a bit of a mantra out of the current administration. It's referenced in the Labour Digital Review if they come into power, that there will have to be a rebalancing of sort of repairing relationships with the bigger suppliers as well as the rapprochement with the SMEs. Do you think, from the point of view of a vendor association, has that been problematic over the last few years, do you think, this kind of bashing of the big vendors?
Well, I think if you so referring to the term oligopoly, the Office of Fair Trading did a market study, and I think the conclusions were pretty clear. And actually, the 12 out of the 14 recommendations said the issues remain with the way the government procures technology. I think what the Cabinet Office has done has certainly disrupted the market, and I think that's been a good thing. I think we're now looking ahead, looking to the future, and the real test will be in the likes of Aspire.